This is Podco Media Networks.
Hello all. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Glocal Citizens podcast. I'm currently back in Accra, Ghana, social distancing and on lockdown like most of the world in an effort to stay safe and stem the spread of COVID-19, the coronavirus. I recorded the next interview earlier this year, and it is a right-on-time prompt to open our minds to new possibilities in our relationship with Mother Nature. Please do listen, comment, and share. This week, I am in New York City, Brooklyn, my other home, and I'm with one of my longtime friend circlers, Mr. Asio Highsmith. Asio comes to the podcast from a different place than my guests that you've heard previously. Asio is a military brat. He's lived all over the world in the U.S., and he's settled and growing a family here in New York. And he describes himself as a Renaissance man with a service mission. We spent some time this summer on the land, and I was inspired by what he's working on and what he's doing. And I said, look, I want you to be a part of this podcast. So his kind of global citizenship is, I think, something that we're all eventually going to need to move towards. And so that's why I want to have this conversation with Asio. So Asio.
Yes.
Tell us more about you. Where you're local and why.
So I have been in New York since 1994, I believe.
Okay.
Maybe it was 93. And, I've been here since then, and I came here when I was 18 years old from South Carolina. I wanted to come up here for the performing arts. I wanted to be basically Theo from the Cosby Show.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, I want to be that guy. How can I be that guy? So yeah, I came up here to pursue performing arts, and
you actually did it.
And I did it.
Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah. You got to wave your flag, sir, because we've seen you.
Yeah, thank you. I've been around. Around. Very blessed. Wasn't easy, you know. Very competitive world out there. But yeah. I guess how many years later now? 25 years later now. I am, I have a family, a beautiful wife and kids, and looking on the other side of my life, like, how can I get out of New York City now? And how can I just, see myself getting to the other side of myself?
Okay, right.
I don't see myself being here in the city when I'm very, very old. Mm-hmm. I've traveled a lot, so I would like to free my brain from this concrete and steel of the city. So I found some property upstate that you came to, and it's really helped me to get to understand myself and my place on this world a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just to reel it in a little. So you're local-ish in Brooklyn, just a little bit. And your craft has been the arts. Mm-hmm. So we've seen you on television, film. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've done voiceovers. Like, you've done it all.
I've done it all.
So we'll put a little bit of that in the show notes. Asio's been a little bit shy about his New York Hollywood, but he's done it.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah, he's done it. So we'll put a little bit of that in the show notes so you get a sense of the Asio that is now finding his other side. Tell us more and tell our listeners more about your background and inspiration. Like you mentioned, living around the world and being in the military. So what inspired you in the art space? And then you've kind of talked about what inspired you now to go back to the land. But let's start with your creative self and then move into your next phase of the creative you.
Sure. I think that being a military brat and traveling all over the world, I watched a lot of TV. Like, say, being in Europe, we lived on military bases. Mm-hmm. So it was like being in a foreign country, but on U.S. soil. We basically stayed on those bases, and we watched America from a distance. Mm-hmm. Like in the 80s, looking back, I was basically in Germany from 1981 to 1989. That was a pretty influential time, and I want to say our cultural history. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of breakdancing and Michael Jackson and, you know, it's like 81 to 89. So it was like everything was off in there, R&B or, you know, everything. And so we're in Germany watching on TV. So we kind of soak that stuff up a little bit harder, a little more voraciously. We're eating American culture. And so I wanted to be in the TV. You know, like I gotta be in the TV. And just a little thing in the back of my mind growing up. And I figured if there was ever a place that I ever wanted to like be, like one place, it would be New York. There was no other place. I didn't really have a home because we traveled. I chose that to be my home in my mind. And I kind of set out to get to New York. And once I got here, I was already pretty much prepared. I basically came here and took me a little bit of time, took me about a year to get my footing. But once I got my footing, I put myself in an acting school and worked and played.
So this is now the 90s, right? So early 90s.
This is the 90s, yeah.
And that was a party time.
It was a serious party time, you know. I mean, coming to New York and going out and, you know, hanging out with, like, I guess New York royalty. Yeah. You know, at the time, it was crazy, you know. Like, I remember hanging out with, like, Tretch from Naughty by Nature and Salt and Pepper.
Yes.
And, I'm hanging out with these people, like Madonna. There was just so many, just all of our superstars, they were all around.
It was a very different place than the New York we live now. Because New York, I kind of feel like there's a New York before bling and a New York after bling. And so that is kind of the juxtaposition that you came and went through, right?
Definitely.
And recently I was watching a program, National Geographic, on Generation X, because we are Gen X. And what you described as you're growing up watching television is who we were. What we knew and what we saw was because we saw everything on television. We saw MTV come. We saw BET. We saw the music video became our reality TV.
Oh, yeah. And we knew whether it was rock or rap, we knew both songs. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we consumed all of it. Exactly.
I think we had just well-roundedness and ability to move in so many different circles because of that. And not to say that, you know, millennials don't have that. I think there's just a different depth
for
to
sure.
the experience.
I think it was a lot more clean cut and almost, it was pure. You know, rock and roll was pure. We knew the difference between, like, the rock bands in the 80s. You could tell, like, you know, you knew the difference. Yeah. And even though we knew the difference between Motley Crue and Anthrax. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we know, like, Twisted Sister, and we watched all those videos, we got down with it, but, like, society was the thing that kind of put caps on things, you know? Right. But it didn't stop us from eating it, you know, consuming it.
Yeah, exactly. And so thinking about the move from bling, I feel like a lot of us were kind of like, this bling thing, whatever. And so I feel like that might, in my mind, is how you've now come to transcend because you were in it. You were in this thing that just became so superficial that it's like, okay, whatever, what's next? And so now your craft is something a little bit different. So tell us about bushcraft.
So bushcraft is basically learning how to survive and thrive in the woods using the environment around you, being able to recognize your environment as your palette for whatever it is that you need. If you need to make a fire, there's wood. If you need to make a fork, you make yourself a fork. If you need a spoon, you make yourself a spoon. Whatever it is that you need, nature provides if you have the wherewithal to look within yourself and become one with the land, because people's been doing this forever. You can create weapons, tools, things that you use every day from the land. And so I find that to be fascinating because I'm a consumer. I was a consumer. I'm a New Yorker and I consumed TV. So I bought stuff. I was a shopper. I bought a lot of CDs. I bought a lot of jewelry. But with being outdoors, you realize it's not about buying stuff. It's about experiencing the outdoors, experiencing yourself in this environment, which is different from your indoors. It's the outdoors. Right. I just never had a connection with the outdoors because I was so connected with the city.
Urban living.
You know? Or being in the city. I just, no way. I'm never gonna go I go up to my friends over the Hamptons, in their houses, and then back to our cars, back to the city. Wasn't really into hiking, wasn't really into fishing, and just the outdoor things that most outdoorsy people, things they do.
Right.
And I think it's totally understandable because my focus wasn't there. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of focus to do something new and to apply yourself to learning something as vast as enjoying the outdoors. How do you do that? Mm-hmm. You got to find the outdoors and you have to get to it, and then you got to relax. If I was going to get to anything and relax, it's going to be a beach.
Yeah.
And then I was going to relax. So I'm really good at that. Yeah. I didn't need any, I did that for 20 years, and that's fantastic. Now, you can always go back to global beaching.
Yeah.
Just finding a beach in the globe anywhere. But the outdoors, being in the woods and hiking and getting to know how I deal with the elements, it's very satisfying for me. It's a challenge.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, how did you get to your outdoors? The process, like identifying the land, how you and your family decided, tell us how that journey took place.
We've been camping since 2005.
Okay.
So we've been camping Bear Mountain in Jersey and upstate since 2005. So for 15 years, I've had a tent. But we were glamping. We would go on glamping trips with our friends. We bought more tents for our friends, big tents, 12-person, 14-person tents, so that we can all glamp. And we didn't do that too often. We probably did that once every couple of years, camp. But it was just normal. We were just camping. It was almost like going to the beach, but we were going
to the woods.
We were hanging out. And, we had a car full of everything that's in our kitchen was in the car. Yeah. Everything in our bedroom is in the car. Glorified car camping, glamping.
Yes.
Yes. Around 2014, my wife and I, we were let's try to find some property upstate. So probably around 2014, we have some friends that are up there in Woodstock, and we were going to visit them a lot, and we started looking at property. Yeah, it took us a couple of years to kind of lock down, if we liked what we were experiencing, because it's very different people up there. Mm-hmm. And so just being a black male and being a black couple, a black family, we're up there, we're like, hey, this is new, but it's for us too. You know what I mean? We don't have to be afraid to buy 10 acres here off in the woods somewhere. This is for us too. This is our America. If we want to do that, then we can do that. Yeah. We can live that life. First step was to not be afraid to get out and do your own thing. And then you just start to get enamored with doing your own thing and being able to, I don't know, I'm not going to say turn into a farmer, but, when you're outside of the city, you have to be more self-reliant. There's no delis.
Right.
So you have to enjoy the idea of being self-reliant.
Right.
Or else you're going to run into some tough times. You're not living in a city, being away from your community and everything. Yeah. So, I just found it as a challenge. And over the last few years, I've really accepted that challenge and accepted the fact that I didn't know how to take care of myself the way I would like to. Could I go camping by myself? And I thought that I could, but I really didn't know how to go camping by myself. That inspired me. Being an actor, it really just opened my brain up to a huge void in my life that I'm I need to experience that. I need to feel that. I need to feel what it's like to be scared in the woods. Why do you want to feel that? Well, there's something in that I kind of want to feel. I want to know what it's like to be a little uncomfortable. Yeah. And then the reality sets on. It's not just that you're uncomfortable while being black, which is, even for me, that's even more of a draw for me, because I'm I love the fact that I am experiencing something that's raw. Yeah. My demons, me, myself, just me alone. I hadn't felt that being in New York for 25 years, being in the city. But being out in the woods, walking at night with a flashlight in the woods, putting myself in that situation, I just hear my mother and father in the back, oh, get your butt in the house, boy. What are you doing out there in the woods? Or these voices start coming in my head. Yeah. And I was like, no, I know people are out here enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
How did they get to that level? Well, it took them years of experience to get to the level of enjoying themselves and enjoying the darkness, around them. Anything can happen to anyone, anywhere. You could be walking down the street in Manhattan, a brick fall on your head. You could be taking a hike and a mountain lion may say, hey, you look tasty, and you come chase you. It's just, you just don't know. But is that going to stop you from experiencing life? No, make a decision. And so we made the decision to learn how to be more self-reliant, and it changed our life. You have to do more research. It's like going back to school. You got to learn in your environment. Not only you're learning about the community that you're around, but you have to learn about the environment, learn about the trees, learn about growing patterns, learning about the weather, learning how to dress outside, learning how to protect yourself in strange ways, being outdoors, small things like lip balm. It's just little things, but it's just like, that goes a long way, there's a lot of little things that go a long way when you look at them differently, dealing with the outdoors.
Sure.
And you can be minimalistic about it. Yeah. That's what I like about it, is that you can pack as much into it as you want, or you can carry as little as you need. The bottom line is that you're feeling alive. You're doing something, and it's really about doing something, being active and feeling life, feeling it, Being a little disoriented is good sometimes, I think. Not knowing what's around the corner is exciting and dangerous.
Can be.
But it can be, but it's also exciting.
And it's a learning experience.
So this is definitely all about making myself a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I know I'm comfortable, but I'm making myself a little uncomfortable.
Sure. Push you to your edge.
To my edge. Yeah, into a place that I haven't been before, for sure. And then place I haven't been before, being black. Because it makes a huge difference. You got to say I'm black at the end of it, because that keeps me grounded.
So let's peel that back a little bit, because, and it kind of dovetails with my question about Glocal Speak. So I have this question I ask my guests about what you hear. And so I ask my guests to share a word or phrase or saying that's a meaningful part of your local experience and why you've come to value that as Glocal Speak. And so when you say being black in this space of moving to upstate New York, and just to give everyone a little bit of context, when people think of New York, they see New York City and they feel like that is definitely a melting pot. But once you get about an hour or two outside of New York, it's a very Americana type of experience where you don't see a number of people of color.
It's rural.
Yes, it's rural.
It's
exactly.
Rural.
Exactly. That's what we have plenty of farms in New York. We have beautiful woods. I mean, I love my time there, and we'll talk a little bit more about spending time on your land. But in the context of being black, what is some Glocal Speak on your land or in the area that might resonate with you, or otherwise, maybe not in the context of being black, but just when you are in your land, what do you hear that really resonates with you?
I think that, first of all, I've come to a place where I am not trying to develop a relationship with the community. I'm trying to develop a relationship with the land. And I think that's very important.
Yes.
The land dictates my disposition. It's not like I'm moving upstate to join whatever it is that they have going on up there, the local gun club.
Right.
I'm moving upstate to learn about what they've already been doing, living in that rural situation.
Got it.
It's best to try to understand how to be a rural person than to try to be a city person in a rural situation. Because being a city person in a rural situation is expensive. So if you are going to go to a rural situation, I think it helps you out in your pockets to try not to buy, to try to throw money around in the woods. It's like, no. People are taking care of themselves. A lot of people, they cut their own grass. They get rid of their own varmints. That's, you know what I mean? You got to be able to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And the community serves a different role. They're like a supporting role if you're already doing the right thing. So you can't go into a rural situation. You can, but in a rural situation, you need your community to respect you, or else you could be on an island by yourself. Say if bad weather or whatever, and if your community around you doesn't, not necessarily respect you, and you're on your own. So it's best to have like a community when you're in the rural situation. So, if you get stuck in the snow, if you're snowed in, you can have friends nearby to let them know that you're alive. It's more about letting them know you're alive. If the telephone poles go down, you don't want to be all the way out there. So camaraderie and community out there and in a rural community, I find to be important. And also I find it to be kind of like a comforting state of mind. It's like, yeah, I'm coming up here to help grow your community and to help raise my awareness on how to exist in a rural situation.
Sure.
Because I didn't know how to do that. But a lot of times you meet people, say when you're in a rural situation, you go to, there's only one store. There's only one general store. There's one hardware store. For miles around, it's like you have to adjust to that type of mentality, small town mentality, You can't just ignore that. It is what it is.
Yeah. So would you kind of say that your Glocal Speak is hi friend?
Yeah, Hey, friend. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to learn more about the land, and I'm willing to help if you need my help. That's a different character for me to live in too, being up there, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like New York, people talk a lot. Here in the city, we talk a lot, but it's like, you really, helping people here is a lot different than helping people upstate.
Right.
Or in a rural situation.
Yeah. Because there really is not land involved.
There's not land involved. Yeah. And this is a city life opposed to rural life. I guess with my journey, becoming more aware of the world and aware of the land, become more of an environmentalist because you start caring and not like littering. You start caring about like small things. And then it comes back to you. I used to be a smoker since I was 17. I was smoking cigarettes. Wow. I quit smoking cigarettes 2 years ago because like with my discovery of the outdoors, I realized that smoking a cigarette while trying to become closer with Mother Nature, it didn't match up.
Yeah.
It just didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because I would smoke in the middle of the forest and then I'd be looking to somewhere to put the cigarette out up against a tree or this. And then I want to throw my butt away and then I'm littering. And then I even try to throw my butt into a fire that I made, but then the butt wouldn't burn.
Wow.
But then I was like, you know what? I got a problem. I'm the problem. And I had to apologize to Mother Nature because I was like, wow, I've been so ignorant to myself. And I apologize and I'm going to stop. And I quit that day.
That's amazing.
Cold turkey.
Yeah.
Cold turkey. Just didn't make sense.
Right.
It was counterproductive.
Yeah.
2 years ago, that was when I kind of went all in with like, this is good for me. For me to see myself.
Right.
For me to get away from the distractions of the city, which I was living in distractions all the time.
Right.
For myself, this was good for me, and I didn't care about anybody else.
Yeah.
I made a change for the better, and I didn't need psychotherapy for it. I didn't need to go and everyone knows smoking is harmful.
Yeah.
But you have to come up upon that realization to quit by yourself.
Yes.
So I did that, and I really haven't looked back. It's empowering to know that I can make a choice and stick with it. And it's a choice sometimes to hold yourself back.
Thanks for joining us for part 1 of our discussion with Asio Highsmith. The conversation continues, same place, on your time, next week. If you haven't already, please do subscribe at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll never miss a new episode. Bye for now.